Yo guys, today we're going to do something brand new. The company Safari Pedals just sent me all of their guitar pedal plugins and they're super fire. I'm actually shocked because by the looks of it, you would think it's just for specific use cases, but these plugins can actually be used to create a vibe. So hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. If you don't know me, I'm Game from BusyWorksBeats.com. We train over 1 million producers around the world, so we're going to work with Drake, Kanye West, Post Malone, Ariana Grande, French Montana, Young Thug, Polo G, Trippie Redd, Lil Baby, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, a long list of other folks. Today I want to show you guys the company Safari Pedals. We've been rocking with the company way back since, what was it, Time Machine was one of their first plugins or so. Okay, so I want to show you guys their other stuff. So over the years, they've created way more plugins. So firstly is the Dragon EQ. We're going to use this on this like J. Cole type track. So this is a really good one for just adding that like upfront vibe. So let me turn it on first. And I like using the mid drive. You can even hear it in my voice. The mid drive and the low drive are crazy. Let's turn the drums on. All right, so again, my thing is this, it just creates a vibe. When you're a sound designer and a plugin maker, you can understand like there's technical stuff and then there's vibe stuff. This is a vibe company, in my opinion. You can tell by their aesthetic, you can tell by their ideas. Wait till we get into the other plugins. This is just the first one. They just add such a like a fullness to your track. And I have a lot of their plugins have auto gain compensation as well, so you're not just like cranking stuff up. Here's before. You can even hear it in my voice too. Here's after. I just saw now they have mid and side mode. Let's see what this does. Let's pull this to the mid signal. So now we're leaving the sides nice and soft and wide, and we're just adding saturation to the middle signal. I'll exaggerate it. Just a vibe. So that's what I love about this company. They're all about vibe. That was the Dragon EQ. I will have separate videos going through each plugin, but that might take some time. I just realized the volume is down. Next, let's go to Rabbit Tape. Well, you can even hear it in my voice. So it does more than just add tape saturation, which you could clearly hear in my voice. It also does the wow effect, which is like the pitch wobble. It does tape flutter, which is like volume drops. It does reel to reel, and it does cassette. So cassette is more less harmonics, whereas reel to reel is very like saturated in the sound. Okay, so again, they have auto gain compensation if you guys want to use that to quickly kind of just turn the input up. But let me just hear this. So here's off. Here's on. Let's turn down the output though. Hear that? It just adds a vibe. Let's put it on cassette mode so it's a little more lo-fi. Again, it's just about vibe with this company. Super fire. So again, they sent me the all plugins bundle. So if you guys are going to dive into the company, get the if you guys are going to dive into the company, get the all plugins bundle. I tongue twisted because I was shocked how much vibe is in this stuff. Okay, so next one is called Camel Strip. Again, you can hear it in my voice. A lot of these have really unique saturation signatures, and that's what separates analog stuff from like most plugins. Is analog stuff has a unique color and texture per unit. So you could have the same exact hardware, but each one creates a little bit different of a color, like harmonic saturation, I should say, or texture or noise or whatever the thing is. And the same thing with their plugins. Each plugin has its own color, so to speak. Especially when it comes to these like channel strip, like technical stuff. So let's turn the output down. So they have compressors here. I believe the Fairchild, the LA2A, then the 1176 harmonics. So you guys can switch the compressor styles down here. I'll just compress just so you guys can hear. Again, that's more, sets of harmonics. Then they have a built-in reverb right in this channel. Switch between spring reverb and then plate reverb. The plate is a lot darker than the spring reverb. Now for this beat, we're not gonna have reverb on the entire beat. They also have a noise gate on this plugin. And then I believe these are like console emulations. I don't know what the 773 stands for, unless it's like a preamp. And the 4K might be referring to the SSL, I'm not sure. Then they have the input drive here, which is the real key. Let's turn the output down here. Then we're gonna crank the input drive. Now you guys can hear it in my voice, like it's starting to sound like I'm speaking through a megaphone. That's what it's doing to the beat, and it's just crunching it, but adding a unique like depth. The saturation on this doesn't sound like just saturation for saturation's sake. It sounds like it has a unique depth. I can't really articulate that unless you use it for yourself. They also have, I think, 14-day free trials, if I'm not mistaken. So this is just like the simple, and it's just such a creative name, the Camel Strip. That's genius. You know what? I forgot one. One is gonna be the Lion. Where's it at? Lion Master. So what I would do if this were like the mix bus, I would use this paired with the Lion Master. Can't speak today, y'all. Next one is called Owl Control, like out of control. And let's turn this on. So this one, I'm still trying to figure out what the heck it does. It definitely adds saturation because I could hear it in my voice. It sounds saturated. So it's 4 different styles of compression here. Okay, now I'm hearing that compression. You can really hear it now. So you might have to push volume going into it to really hear that crunch. Let's make it a slower attack. So it looks like it has a built-in, okay, that's cool. Let's pull it back a little bit just so it doesn't. Here's it before. Again, it's all about vibe, y'all. Here's after. I'm going to turn down the width. To really hear the sound, though, you might need to crank the volume going in. It's a little subtle to hear that if you use it at a subtle level. Okay, and the next one's called the Lion Master. This is just going to catch those peaks. But again, this plugin is dope because it comes with saturation of its own kind. That's why I like these plugins. It doesn't just give you just limiting. It gives you a way to make your track feel more dense through saturation here. Now the track doesn't need width, but let's just use the width knob here. So we're making it wider, sound more. Let's turn up the saturation here. Here's before. Here's after. Let's crank the input gain just to see how hard we can push the sound. Whoa, that's loud. So you guys don't even have to push the sound that hard to get it to sound loud. I only pushed this, like 4 dB, and it sounds like it's filling out the track. Before. Here's after. So what I'll do is I'll pair these up to see what it sounds like in combo. Let's do the rabbit tape, which automatically just caught my ear, just even hear myself. And let's do the Dragon EQ because I think this has a really dope sound. Let's take it off the mid-side mode. Let's pull this back a little bit. Again, it's just so unique of a sound. Again, shout out to the people who really thought through all this stuff. I might pull back some of the width. do a before and after. Here's the before. Here's after. All right, now let's move to individual channels and see what kind of vibe we can get. So that was on the mix bus. Okay, and I'm just throwing these plugins at the mix bus. This wasn't thought out. I just kind of stacked the plugins and preloaded them. Next, let's focus on the sample. So this sample sounds dope because it's just like this laid back type of vibe that's like stuttered and everything. So the first thing we'll try is their plugin called Fox Echo Chorus. This is dope. I'm gonna try this on R&B loops that I make, but this plugin here is definitely fire. Now I'm using it very subtly, but let me turn it on. Here's what it would sound like by default. We don't need the delay for this specific sound. We're gonna use the chorus to about 70% or so, and then blend it to 100% so we could hear what's happening. So we're widening out the sound, and then we're making the middle very like soft. It's hard to really articulate the middle, but it also has a built-in reverb. I love the reverbs because the reverb isn't like this big, huge sound that just gets in the way. It pushes the sound to the back. It's really hard to hear unless you hear this in context, but the reverb really just kind of like push the sample to the back. Let me unlock the drums. And let's A/B this plugin here. Here's before. All right, now let's turn the plugin on. They also have a width knob here. And I love that the fact that they have noise in the sample or in the plugin itself. That's pretty dope. So this is really unique plugins. So that was on the sample. I'm also going to try their Rhino reverb. Okay, this one's fire because this one, shockingly, it's so simple, but it's just shockingly good. Like when I turn it on, it really pushes the sound back. Just listen to how up front the sample is. And then we're going to crank up the reverb. See, it just kind of like adds it in its own dimensional space. So I'll A/B this just so we can kind of. I just realized I didn't have the snare unlocked. There we go. Let's turn the drums off for a second and then let's listen to the sample. Here's after. It just kind of fits it in its own place. That's the best way to say it. Instead of the sound clashing with everything, it just fits it in its own little pocket of the mix. That's going to be really unique. I can't wait to use that on some R&B stuff because that is a very unique way to go about sound designing. Next, let's go to, where'd I have it here? The drums. Okay, so now we're going to move to the drum channel. I have the drums and the bass routed to one channel. By the way, for this video, let's just make these separate. Okay, and here we have the flamingo reverb. So the drums sound cool, but they're very like stop, go, stop, go. So to give them some realism from all these samples that are from different, songs, let's go to flamingo verb. And this is dope because one, this is the dope name, but two, I'm going to turn it up so you guys can hear it. So I think by default, the time is set to like, somewhere in the middle here. Okay, so most people think you just run this through melodies or something, but you could use it on drums. So this is what most people like start out with. So the trick is to pull your time down so that it feels like your drums are in a room, and then pull your blend level back. And that will simulate the idea of overheads. So that's how, when you record drums, the way you make it sound big most of the time is record not only the snare drum, the snare head, the snare bottom, and the kick drum. You also record above the drum set to record everything. and that's what creates perceived width, because they'll have like mics that cross like that, and they'll record left and right, and you can make a wide sound. And the same thing here, you could have a mic in the back of the room recording the room reverb as well. So the way we can kind of emulate that, like if you guys have drum breaks in hip hop and you just want them to sound more realistic and like a vibe, add the flamingo verb at a low time. And then I would recommend cutting the lows here with the high pass filter and use that blend knob. So again, it's going to start by sounding something like this, but cut the lows here with the high pass, turn your time down, and then turn the blend down. And now your drums feel like they're in a space. Let's do it before and after. All right, here's before. I forgot the snare had a reverb on it, so here's before. Just kind of like straightforward drums. Here's after. Pull that blend knob back a little bit. Now the drums feel like they're from a room, and it's not just like recorded samples. Feels like it's in a place. So that's a little trick you guys could use for your drums. Nextly is the Zebra Clipper. So this is their new plugin here called Zebra Clipper, and I recommend you guys just slam the volume on this and just see a sound. Try to get a sound. Firstly, I would recommend the auto gain. So if you guys are messing with this, turn auto gain on first, and then turn up your input. And then you have to turn on the mojo and the sub bass. So auto gain is on right now, so we're just listening to the tonal difference of the drum. Hear that scrape? So when you push the drums hard enough, it goes like, it just like, listen to that. So you can push this really hard and get a really unique sound. And then we're going to pull it back and just mess with the levels individually. Let's turn oversampling on, and then we're going to switch these modes: analog, modern, and round mode. So this is pulling out a lot of that powdery sound of the drums. Very dope. Let's try different modes here. So modern seems more tight in the sound. Analog seems more long-tailed saturation. Modern is very like transient focused, it seems. And round seems to focus on like the low frequencies from like 100 to 200, maybe a boost going in or something. So it just makes it a little more of a tape sound. So my favorite mode is analog mode. This just has that smeary, powdery sound to it. Let's add the mojo. So the mojo adds just another set of harmonics here. For this track, I don't want to overdo the mojo because it just becomes too square, but I like that sound. And then we have the sub boost here, which is my favorite thing to do, is like boost around 60 to 75 hertz to make your drums just feel bigger. I don't know the exact frequency they boosted, but I'm sure it's down in that range. Let's do it before and after. Here's before. Here's after. See how the drums just have way more attitude? Let's do the whole chain. Here's before, the entire chain. They just sound like a bunch of samples stacked up, which is, it's a decent sound. But now we fit it in a vibe. So 2025, I want you guys to produce with a vibe. All right, let's open up. What else do we have in this mix? So on the bass, I added, now I can't wait to show you one of these plugins. Let's turn up the bass. Now the one plugin is called Gorilla Drive. This is really good for just getting that bass to just jump up. Like even by default, the preset just pulls that bass right in your, right up front. Let's turn the input up and then match it with the output. There's also an auto gain button here. And you guys can feel that bass just jump out of the speaker. But I recommend if you guys do use that auto gain, you might have to turn your fader down. So let's do it before. Here's before. Just like a basic sine wave. Here's after. Okay, it just jumps out. It has more roundness to the low end, and it really accentuates. Is that the word? That's that low end. Now this plugin shocked me because usually I would think you just plug in a guitar into this and just go crazy, which you can. But this one shocked me because I didn't expect this to sound the way it does on bass. This bass specifically, which is a sine wave. So it has a similar effect to the Fox Echo, or yeah, the what's the one with the reverb? The Rhino Verb, I think was the one, where it just kind of pushes the sound to the back. And it shocked me because I wasn't expecting that sound out of this plugin. It's hard to explain, so let's just hear what it sounds like. First, let's do the before. Here's after. And I'm gonna just mess with different levels of gain here. It adds like this zippery style distortion that sounds like a zipper if you push it on level 3. It's hard to really articulate what this is doing, but the harmonics are really unique. I've never felt harmonics that sound this cool. And I have oversampling on. We're adding that octave, which is dope. So really, I think it's just that perceived octave that might be what my ear's catching on to, but also there's a width knob here, which is adding like a subtle width to that bass. So I don't know what pre-boost does, so let's turn this on. So I think it just cranks the volume up. So these first two are pretty clean. I can't really, they're very subtle harmonics. This is my favorite one, that third mode. Let's mess with the fourth mode here. That one's super obvious. But again, it's hard to describe like the type of harmonics we get from this. And you could also blend it with the mix level here with the blend knob. For this sound, I might even pair with the echo. So I love that they pair these sounds with animals because that helps me remember. I think it was Fox Chorus. That's what I would add on this sound. Fox is F-O, how you spell Fox? Fox, 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 echo. So that's what I would add to this bass as that final like thing, vibe. Let's mess with this as chorus. And now we have that like, that smeary sound. And now it's just a vibe. Just really unique sound. So I love that we can just make sound cool like that. Nextly, man, I have so many plugins to show you guys. So on the sound effects here, we could do a lot of cool stuff. All right, so first let me go in order. The first plugin here is a Fruity Stereo Enhancer. This is basically splitting the sound and making it sound really wide. All right, so that was my chain, my initial chain, and then Fruity Delay 3 was next. That was my initial chain, but let's try their Ladybug reverb. This is really dope. And then it has a width knob here where we can create stereo width without that like far left, far right sound. So this really doesn't need much explanation. You just turn on a reverb style, which is the eyes of the ladybug, which is genius actually. And there's a lo-fi button. I really didn't mess with it outside of just switching the reverb type. And there's a built-in compressor which keeps that reverb feeling like very dense and creamy sounding. So I might turn the output down a little bit. So just super subtle stuff like that that makes your beat stand out. Nextly is the Hawk Phaser. So a phaser, I would usually pair this with something else. I wouldn't just use a phaser and that's it, unless maybe it's like a sawtooth or something. So this one, we're pairing it with the Ladybug Reverb. I'll exaggerate the settings just so you guys can kind of hear it. But it's really about the stereo perception of stereo width more than it is about a sound. But let's crank this. And it seems like it has... Yeah, I was about to say, it seems like it has a filter. So here's the filter. Okay, so I believe it's like a high pass and low pass. It's hard to really tell. Okay, now you guys can hear that sound. So it's just adding more quirkiness. I normally wouldn't push it that far. I would normally only use it for the stereo width, or the stereo imaging, I should say. More than the actual, like, wobbly effect. Okay, so that's a very subtle plugin. That's why I said I would normally pair that with something else. And then Yak Delay. This one's really unique. I was actually surprised when I heard this. This one, you just gotta hear the sound. It does like these delay throws. And it adds like this filter to the sound that's really unique. There's a random mode. Let's see what this sounds like. That's fire. Oh, that's crazy fire. Let's just turn the output down. That's nuts. So it sounds like a sequence that changes some kind of macro value on the back end, and it switches those knobs around. Luckily, it didn't like turn it up so loud to where it's like jarring or some crazy resonance. So this is what I said. This company is so good at just the vibe. Let me turn off some of these plugins to save CPU. I'm on a low buffer, so I don't want the CPU to go crazy. But lastly, on the snare, we have the, it's called the Dirty Dog Reverb. This is a really dope reverb for this specific track. Let's turn off these plugins. Let's do a before and after. So here's before. And I want you guys to listen to just the space, the gaps in the drums, I should say. Now let's activate the reverb. I'll exaggerate it so you guys can hear. So what it's doing is using a gated reverb. So it just sounds like a sample of reverb. It's hard to really articulate what I'm saying, but instead of like a reverb that goes like and just fades, it sounds like we're playing a drum sample, but it's reverb. So it's like, and then it stops. So it's just such a unique sound, and it just holds that reverb there. And then I'm just pulling the level back. That's what made a lot of those 80s drums sound so unique, is because they would just have these reverbs like this on the drums, on the snare. And then there's overdrive. You guys can add drive to the sound, again, making it more unique. I'm not going to add drive to that sound, but let's just crank it just to see. Let's turn the output down first, and then let's mess with the pre-drive. My ear is hearing more of a scratchiness that it's adding. It's really hard for me to, again, articulate my thoughts. But it's just filling out more of that gap, basically, making the reverb feel more noisy. That's what I'm hearing for this snare. I forgot we have the blend level all the way down too, that's why. All right, so let's hear all these effects together. Hopefully I could add these together. let's add that rabbit tape to the mix bus. Again, I'm running a low sample rate, so these plugins just add vibe. So in the next videos, I'll solo different plugins and just show you guys different workflows I would use. But go check out Safari Pedals. They have an awesome suite of everything. Again, these were sent to me, but I'm actually shocked because the last plugin I've tried out was Time Machine, and that was years ago. So the plugins they've added are actually crazy, and I'm actually shocked at the sound. That's why I took this video. All right, guys, subscribe if you're new. It's Game from BusyWorksBeats.com. Peace out, guys.